at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Friday, February 14th. Yes, it's Valentine's Day, and I'm hoping to be your special Valentine's Day Muslim BFF. It's a special VMBFF, Valentine's Day Muslim BFF. I'm here for you. I'm on Twitter all the time at Dean Obeidallah. Hope you're having a good day. Just quick plugs here. If you're up early, either tomorrow or on Sunday, tomorrow morning, I'll be on Ali Velshie's. It's the official rollout of his brand new show on MSNBC at 8 a.m. He's been doing it the last few weeks, but apparently tomorrow's the real rollout, and I'm very happy. Unless I get bumped, I'm scheduled to be on at 8 a.m. with him in a panel on MS. And then if you like C-SPAN, I'm going to be on for a whole hour, Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. You can call in. I hope you do call in, because I'm sure Trumpers are going to call in and say crazy things. So I hope you'll call in on the Democratic line, and it's all in good fun. I mean, we discuss the issues, we take calls and discuss it. So I hope you'll check both of those things out. Today is Valentine's Day. I went to Jersey, visited my mom, who's Sicilian, and I gave her a nice bouquet of flowers. And this is not a joke. This is what she said. She goes, "Now I'm glad I didn't kill you when you were a kid." And that's Sicilian for "I love you." So that was very nice of her to say that. She literally said that. My mom, that's her sense of humor as a Sicilian. And it's Friday. Before we get into a serious topic, let's go to Colbert. Here's Colbert with a few jokes about the Democratic candidates. This first one is on Bernie campaigning in Nevada now. That's where the next caucus is. Here's clip number one.
Next, the campaign moves on to a caucus in Nevada, which is perfect for Bernie, because he'll fit right in at the nickel slots. Come on, baby needs a new pair of shoes. Because the millionaires and billionaires are refusing to pay the baby a living wage. Come on, let's go.
That was a quick, funny joke there. And then here's Colbert on Joe Biden and Michael Bloomberg. We put them together. They're funny jokes. Here's clip two.
The South Carolina electorate is a whole new ball game for the Dems. Joe Biden pointed out why.
Up till now, we haven't heard from the most committed constituency of the Democratic Party, the African-American community. 99.9%. That's the percentage of African-American voters who have not yet had a chance to vote in America. 99.8. That's the percent of Latino voters who haven't had a chance to vote.
Well, sure, that's because the first two states to vote are Iowa and New Hampshire, which are so white you have to go to the supermarket's international aisle to buy pepper. Now, the second most popular candidate among African Americans is former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg with 22%. Now, that sounds surprising, but Bloomberg has been out there in the African American community, shaking hands and frisking babies. Bloomberg, it's true. Gotta check the diaper. So funny stuff. It's Friday, although we're going to get serious pretty quickly. By the way, last night we were covering, there was the breaking news right before we went on air. Bill Barr with his comments to ABC criticizing Donald Trump, at least on face value. Myself and most of us, I tweeted instantly when I saw it, this is a Trump-Barr charade choreographed by them, unless Bill Barr were to resign. And then I would say, you know what, this is a real thing. And here's just a short clip of it, because there's more to it today. Here's clip number 3, Bill Barr from last night.
Barr is a strong supporter of President Trump, but he's drawing some lines. I asked if the tweets about criminal cases are causing a problem, and he was blunt, saying he wants them to stop.
To have public statements and tweets made about the department, about our people in the department, our men and women here, about cases pending in the department, and about judges before whom we have cases, make it impossible for me to do my job and to assure the courts and the prosecutors in the department that we're doing our work with integrity.
So today, Donald Trump acknowledged that he has been making mistakes and promised not to tweet again. I'm kidding. I can't even say that and not laugh. Of course, Donald Trump didn't do that. What do you think Trump did this morning? He tweets, first quoting Bill Barr, quote, "The president has never asked me to do anything in a criminal case, close quote, AG Barr," he writes. But then Trump adds, "This doesn't mean that I don't have, as president, the legal right to do so. I do, but I have so far chosen not to." Donald Trump's now putting in writing, folks, that like a dictator, he has the right to tell his attorney general not to prosecute his friends and to go prosecute his political enemies. Yet the GOP is silent. I have to amend my comment. I usually say Trump is how democracies die. It's really Trump and the GOP are how democracies die. Nothing. Not a word from them. Now, Mitch McConnell last night saying, I think the president should listen to AG Barr. He knows what he's doing, that kind of stuff. Look, this is a charade. And there's more developments today that make it clear it's a game. Bill Barr is in every instance, every opportunity to defend the president or do the right thing, he's defended Donald Trump. When the Mueller report came out, that was the most famous example where he characterized it in a way that was not really consistent with the actual report when we got it. In fact, when he testified about it, we learned Robert Mueller had told him he didn't like the letter because it didn't characterize things correctly. And then with the phone call with the Ukrainian president that went to Barr first, he said there's no wrongdoing here. Didn't even have an investigation. Can you believe that? You have a actual, and they even had the whistleblower complaint. We didn't have that yet. They have the transcript where Trump is saying, investigate Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. And to Bill Barr, that's fine. Didn't want to investigate it. So there's not much that I trust Bill Barr. And then today we learned more. New York Times reporting about 1 o'clock this afternoon that Bill Barr has appointed, and we didn't know this is because of reporting. There was no outside announcement. Bill Barr appointed outside prosecutors to review the case against Donald Trump's other felon BFF, Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn was a national security advisor who lied to FBI agents. And as a reminder with Michael Flynn, he voluntarily pled guilty to a felony in December 2017. Again, he voluntarily pled guilty, Michael Flynn. No one forced him. He pled guilty and he cooperated with the prosecutors. I'm not sure what he did with them. Since then, they've been dragging their feet on doing the sentencing, fighting over things. We just learned a short time ago, Roger Stone's attorneys are going to make an application for a new trial. People might get upset about that. That's fine. That's the legal system. As a lawyer, I can tell you that if your client is convicted, you have the right within a certain period of time to make an application to the court, appeal. And grounds for appeal can be anything. So if they can do that, it might get approved and there might be a new trial. If they find some wrongdoing, we'll find that out. I have no problem with that. It's the interference of Donald Trump into the actual case, which is absolutely wrong. And next hour, Jill Wine-Banks, who you all know and love, the MSNBC contributor, former Watergate prosecutor, is going to join us for the first half of that. And we're going to get into much more details about DOJ policy, why this is wrong, why in the big picture all Americans should be concerned, because what would stop a future president, even a Democratic president, after seeing Trump? And instead of us speaking up, we go, well, Trump did it. A Democratic president coming in and saying, you cannot prosecute my friends, but I want you to go after my political enemies. How outrageous would that be? We can never allow that. Doesn't matter what party it is. And remember when Loretta Lynch, the AG, met for like a half hour on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, while Hillary Clinton was being investigated, they went crazy on the other side. You got Trump literally telling the AG what to do in writing, in tweets, in public, and they're defending it. So, look, we're going to talk about that. I want to touch on something that's not getting a lot of headlines, but we talk about these big issues that affect the Constitution, checks and balances, the rule of law going forward, now and going forward, and the impact of that. But I'm much more moved by real life that impacts people and how people suffer and how they've been wronged and the injustice of what is taking place. And the Washington Post did remarkable reporting yesterday in a really, really long article. And they looked at over 20,000 instances reported in the media of children in school who are bullied or beaten by people parroting the words of Donald Trump. And this is beyond the hate crimes of adults, which we covered in the past, and attacks on mosques and other places of worship and people of all different faiths and races and LGBTQ community as well. These are on children in school. And according to the Washington Post reporting, and it is heartbreaking. I want to go through some of the details of it, the real stories, because that is what's so painful, and share some of the responses I got from people on Twitter who gave their reaction, but also shared stories about their own family, what they've gone through in the time of Trump. And this is not around the 2016 campaign. This is much more recent stuff, because we knew about that other stuff. This is recent. This is happening now. Now, overall, they looked at over 20,000 news reports from around the country. They found more than 300 times since the start of the 2016 campaign that children were bullied or beaten with the words of Donald Trump being mimicked or parroted against them. At least 3/4 of the attacks were directed at kids who are Hispanic, Black, or Muslim. Those were the three biggest groups, and LGBTQ and then Jewish were the victims the most. But the biggest chunk of all, when we go through it, is Hispanic. And that makes all the sense in the world. While Donald Trump is saying, build that wall, and immigrants coming over our border are drugs dealers and criminals and thugs and they're rapists and they're going to kill your family. Now, as the Washington Post reports, since Trump's rise to the president, his language has seeped into schools across America. And obviously bullying went on long before Donald Trump. But what's unique about this is the bullying is using the words of Donald Trump. So there's a direct line. I'm not just saying there's bullying kids and now I'm going to blame Trump for everything. That's not fair. And that would be so over the top. It would make it less powerful when we talk about specific instances where children were bullied or beaten using the words of Donald Trump, because those are the ones that I have an issue with. Kids are always bullying. We get that. That happens all the time in schools. So let me give you some examples here. They did a summary at the top here. We'll get into some of the details. The cases include two kindergartners in Utah, to a Latino boy that Trump would send him back to Mexico. Teenagers in Maine sneered banned Muslims at a classmate wearing hijab. In Tennessee, a group of middle schoolers linked arms, imitating Trump's wall and refusing to let non-white students pass the hall. In Ohio, another group of middle schoolers surrounded a mixed-race sixth grader, telling her, this is Trump country. But let me give you some of the actual stories, because these summaries are not as moving nor as powerful or as painful to hear. Here's one case. Cecilio Castor, she's Mexican-American, lives in Washington State. The day after the election, it begins there, but then it continues to more recent times. She said that as a sophomore in high school, that a friend told her, I'm glad Trump won, because Mexicans are stealing our jobs, something Trump has been saying. And later on, about a year later, Cecilio didn't tell anyone, but then she revealed she doesn't like Trump. And people at the school, which apparently liked Trump, not only didn't want to be around her, it got worse. On American Night, which is a big football game in October 2018, as a senior, students unfurled a big Make America Great flag and led in cheers of Build That Wall, taunting the Latino students there. The Hispanic students were so outraged, they organized a walkout in response because the school administration didn't respond the way they wanted to. In this walkout, they got heckled by students wearing MAGA hats. So there's no doubt they were wearing MAGA hats, folks. This is all in the reporting. Yelling things like, look at those effing Mexicans, and taunting the Hispanic students while wearing MAGA hats and Trump hats. The students who led the protest against the Hispanic kids, one of them was suspended. The Washington Post reached out to that student who said, I don't want to talk about it. Everyone's moved on, but added at the end, and this is just his response in the last few weeks, but added at the end, Trump 2020. In another horrible case, a 13-year-old girl in New Jersey who's Mexican-American was told by her classmates in Jersey all Mexicans should go back behind the wall. A day later, and this gets worse, this is June 19th, 2019. This is just 7-8 months ago. This 13-year-old was getting taunted, and another student around her age not only attacked her, beat up her mother, who was Hispanic, and beat her unconscious. And according to the family's attorney, Daniel Santiago told the Washington Post, when the president goes on TV and is saying things like Mexicans are rapists, Mexicans are criminals, these children don't have the cognitive ability to say, hey, he's just playing the role of a politician. The language he uses matters. Here's a really heartbreaking case. Ashante Bonilla, 17, Mexican-American high school in Idaho, said since Trump got elected, it became worse. They would hear it. They think it's okay. The president says it. Why can't they? And one day at school, the kids were chanting at her, you're illegal, go back to Mexico. She heard kids say F Mexicans. Another time, she came back from lunch and someone had put a rope around her car. I'm not sure if it was a noose or not, but a rope tied around the back of her car. And someone had written in dust on the back of her window, Republican Trump 2020. It got so bad, the taunting of Ashante, she stopped going to school for the last month of school. She started having migraines and panic attacks. In August, this past August, her despair spiraled. She tried suicide. She swallowed 27 pills of antidepressants and was rushed to the hospital and survived, thank God. She's seeing a therapist now and is coping with this. As she noted, and it's something that I think is painfully true, the name Trump, she said, even Trump's last name has become a slur used by children. And I've said this before, when the name Trump has been used to deface mosques in New Jersey and other states, just the word Trump, it's become a modern-day symbol of hate for some. I don't mean for all Trump supporters. I mean for those using it, they're equating it as a symbol of supremacy by saying Trump. And I really wish the Trump supporters who didn't support this would speak out, because I'm a Muslim. And for years I heard the people on the right go, where are the good Muslims? Why aren't you denouncing this? Well, where are the good Trump supporters? Where are you? Why are you silent? And you know what? Your silence, the same thing you said to me, means I'm complicit. Well, you know what? You're complicit if you're not going to speak out against this. There's more stories. In Bakersfield, California, August 2019, just a few months ago, the Gay Straight Alliance at the school was having their first meeting of the year. Who barges in? People holding Make America Great hats again and shouting homophobic slurs at the gay and lesbian students. This is Bakersfield, California in August of 2019. The students, the gay and lesbian students, left the meeting, and these kids, the MAGA kids, were chasing them into the parking lot, yelling slurs at them. This is all in the reporting. The Washington Post, and I went back to the source article in Bakersfield. It's all there. In August, in Auburn, Maine, a 16-year-old girl, Muslim girl, wearing a hijab, walking in the halls, and the students yelled, build that wall, ban Muslims, ban Muslims. Where does that come from? Donald Trump. I, Donald Trump, hereby call for a total and complete shutdown on Muslims. And then this is a horrible story. This is all in the Washington Post. This is such a detailed article. And I'm reading a handful of the examples. And I tweeted it out if you're interested at Dean Obeidallah or Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. You can read the article. A few months after Trump tweeted about Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley to go back to your country, telling 2 African-American women to go back to Africa, there was a volleyball game in Kansas City in a rural white area, and the team that was visiting was from Kansas City, and they were all black players on the volleyball team. And I'm going to read from the article. Jordan Covington, one of the black players, on the court, hears all of a sudden chants. And I'm reading, quote, and this is painful to say, but I'm going to say it. Monkeys, monkeys, you don't belong here. Go back to where you came from. The Piper High School volleyball teammates, black, were in tears. The venom has been shouted, according to the Washington Post, at gridiron games, football games, soccer fields, basketball, volleyball courts, in cafeterias. Nearly 90% of the instances identified by the Post targeted players and fans of color or teams fielded by schools with large minority populations. In 2018, we had in the middle school in Michigan, the students there taunting minority classmates, and we have about 5 or 6 seconds. They posted this of the audio. It's not the best, but it's taken on someone's phone, and you can hear them cheering, build that wall. This is in the cafeteria with all the students there taunting students of color. Here's clip number 4. Look, high school, we all know it's hard enough. High school is hard enough. And there's always bullying. You know, I got picked on, never because of my faith or my ethnicity, because kids are kids. They bully each other. But there's a direct line when they're using the words of Donald Trump. This doesn't take any kind of rocket science. You don't need a legal degree. You don't need experts to tell you. No one said build a wall before Donald Trump ran for office. No one said ban Muslims before Donald Trump ran for office. And these kids are emboldened by this. I posted the article on Twitter and some people commented. I'll read a few. One friend on Twitter wrote here, kids at school have told my son several times to go back to Mexico, and we're from California. Kids learn hate from their Trump-supporting parents and mimic them in social situations. Others wrote this, and I agree with this. This very well may be Trump's most single, harmful, irreparable legacy. It will take so much effort and education to unteach the hate and racism. I weep. I weep. Another wrote, a generation of hate is under construction. I weep for the future. This is heartbreaking. It is painful. You know, and the big issues we have to talk about, Trump's attack on our Constitution, separation of powers, checks and balances, accountability, his corruption. And of course, we talk about his white supremacy, his anti-LGBTQ policies, his anti-Hispanic, anti-Muslim, anti-Black rhetoric. But these don't happen in a vacuum. And the children of America are hearing this. And they're mimicking it because the president is doing it. And of course they think it's okay because the president is doing it. And even if they know better, why would they go, he's the president, it's okay. But many of them, you're 10, you're 11, you're 12. Do they really know better? And are they likely repeating things their parents have said? It's very likely as well. And this is the legacy that Trump is leaving in this country. Even if we beat him, this is Trumpism. I've said this countless times. To me, I define Trumpism as this: a celebration of cruelty, of white supremacy, of bigotry, of racism, of sexism. It's a celebration of defending men who abuse women, calling them liars, mocking them in public, and now add corruption to that as well. So when you see these instances, there's so many from around the country using Trump's words, this is Trumpism. And I always bring up one of the most offensive things Trump has done, besides mocking a disabled reporter, which is vile and cruel. It is defending men who have committed domestic violence or sexually assaulted women over and over and over. From Rob Porter, his aide, who beat his two ex-wives. When we saw his two ex-wives, one of them with a black eye, defended him. Nothing, not a hint of sympathy for the women. We saw Donald Trump defend Roy Moore, despite countless women coming forward saying as teenagers he was preying on them. We saw Donald Trump defend Roger Ailes as president when Roger Ailes already was fired from Fox News from all these women saying he sexually assaulted them. And we saw Donald Trump go to a rally in the midst of the Brett Kavanaugh hearing and mock Dr. Christine Blasey Ford for laughs of his audience. That's also going to have a lasting impact. That doesn't show up in hate crimes. That shows up in how men treat women. Because if you think it's okay for the president to say, build that wall and ban Muslims and taunt LGBTQ people because Donald Trump has policies which discriminate against the LGBTQ community, specifically his transgender ban on Americans who want to serve in our military or transgender, and also allowing homeless shelters to get federal funding, even if they turn away transgender Americans who are homeless and they can still get funding now, reversing an Obama-era regulation. All of that tells you it's okay to taunt LGBTQ people. It's okay to taunt Muslims. It's okay to demonize women who come forward and are brave enough to say they've been victims of domestic violence or sexual assault. Every day, 3 women in this country are killed by their boyfriend or their husband or an ex. If we're not going to believe these women when they come forward, Trump has won, because that's part of the climate he's trying to create here. The stakes are so much bigger than policy. It's about our values. It's about who we are. This election is not just a referendum on Donald Trump. It's a referendum on America. It's a referendum on our values. If you need a motivation to vote, because you might not like who our nominee might be, and we don't know who that is, think of these children who are getting bullied now, and if Trump gets reelected, it reaffirms that this is okay. This is America. Think of them. And if you're already animated, then use these kids and their life experience to motivate us even more, to go out there and try to get more people to register, more of your friends to vote. more engaged in organizations. These kids need our help. We are the ones that have to help them because they're minorities in majority white communities. And it comes from the top down, the tone. Let's defeat Trump and show these bullies that what Trump did and said is not acceptable in our country. We're not going backwards like Trump. We are moving forward. And the Trumpers, if you don't like what Trump is doing and inspiring these kids, this is your time to speak up and say it was wrong. Just simply say what Trump has been saying, demonizing these communities is wrong, and that it's horrible these kids are suffering. And that they're hearing the words of Donald Trump and they're seeing kids with MAGA hats bully them and beat them. This is your time. This is not political. This is not Democrat or Republican. You want to stay with Trump? Fine, but at least speak out about this. So I want to hear from you. Have you seen any instances of or episodes of people being bullied? Kids you know, grandchildren, your sons and daughters, family members, friends, with people invoking the words of Donald Trump. What do you think the lasting impact of this is? And when Trump is gone, and I hope it's January 20th, 2021, how do we undo this? What steps can we take? Because that's the hardest answer. Because I know how we can defeat Trump. How do you defeat Trumpism and make people realize this was never right? It's not right. We're not going backwards. 866-997-4748. I'd love to hear from you. You're my guest right at the top of the hour. Then Jill Weinbank's going to join us. In the third hour, it's What Just Happened. I've got three great comedians, a lighter end to a challenging week at times. Be right back after this.
Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.